Good morning, everyone. My name is Don Pearson. I serve as Chief Strategy Officer with Inductive Automation Software. I'd like to welcome you to this morning's webinar, MES Training for Integrators, OEE, How to Win with Ignition OEE Downtime Software. Just to give you a little idea of where we're going to cover today and what we've got planned, why we're here. Well, the reason we're here today really is we're putting on the webinar to just better support integrators on the topic of implementing more OEE solutions with their clients. And today we're discussing how to explain it, how to sell it, how to estimate OEE more effectively, as well as some tips for implementing it. MES, or Manufacturing Execution Systems, it's a software actually designed to bridge the communication gap between the plant floor and the management and executive levels in an organization. The MES layer is really a software layer between plant floor and your ERP systems. So MES software is used for a lot of stuff. You can see several things like mentioned here, but tracking and unplanned downtime, quality, recipe management, track and trace overall, scheduling, genealogy, and just a whole lot of other functions. There's a huge growth potential for integrators who know how to implement MES solutions, because most companies that want SCADA actually already have it. And really, however, when you look at the MES layer, many companies are still using paper to track the data that MES solutions could handle for them. They're using spreadsheets and getting involved in double entry. There's a tremendous amount of consumption of time in that, and the probability of error goes way up. There's a lot of reasons to move away from a system like that that customers are becoming more and more aware of. So the customer demand for MES solutions has grown in recent years, and it really looks to continue to do so into the future. So really, as we looked at it and took feedback from a lot of our integrators, we realized the time is really now to assist in helping you get familiar with MES, so you as integrators can give your customers a service that they need. But also, there's a fair number of end users signed up for today's webinar. And really, it allows you, as you understand MES better, to greatly contribute to your company's efficiency and to your company's success. Just a little bit of background, because there's a fair number of new people registered and attending today. A little background on inductive automation before we get into this MES discussion. Inductive automation started in 2003. It was founded by Steve Eckman. He's our founder, president, and CEO. He's an integrator with 30 years of experience, and he really just thought back then there had to be a better way to get things done in the industry. That was about 12 years ago when Steve got really just very frustrated with out-of-date software tools that were available to him, and he set out to really create a modern software tool for integrators that fully leveraged the power of modern technology and best practices. The result of that effort is Ignition, the most really innovative industrial automation software available on the market today, and I think those of you who are familiar with that see that to be the case. A few years down the road, here we are. Inductive automation software has been applied successfully in a wide variety of industries, from oil and gas, water, wastewater manufacturing, automotive, food and beverage, many more. We have thousands and thousands of installations in over 60 countries around the world, so I think it's fairly safe to say that inductive automation is the fastest growing industrial automation software company in the world today. Ignition platform, really, Ignition is just everything that you could possibly need in one powerful integrated software solution platform. It leverages trusted IT standards, cutting-edge web technologies, allowing you to create it's really a unified software solution for covering the full range of SCADA, HMI, and MES application needs. And it doesn't matter whether the company's large or small. 6 major points that I think can really give you a summary look at Ignition platform and what it can do. It's web-based deployment. With Ignition, you can instantly launch clients from a central server to any individual machines equipped with a web browser. Unlimited licensing. Ignition's really unlimited licensing allows you to have the freedom as you're innovating and doing solutions to not think about tags, because you have unlimited number of clients, screens, tags, connections, devices, whatever, at no extra cost. Security and stability. Ignition is built upon industrial-grade security technology with a solid unified architecture and built-in redundancy. Real-time control and monitoring. Ignition's real-time status controls and analysis give you the power to quickly analyze and easily display the status of your facility. Rapid development. Ignition's object-oriented rapid development environment allows you to quickly create powerful, dynamic HMI SCADA projects with ease and easy expandability. Ignition's modular architecture makes it extremely flexible and scalable to perfectly fit your company's HMI SCADA or MES requirements. So really the idea is that Ignition is there as a platform. It grows with you, so it fits perfectly for your company both today and tomorrow as you expand. A quick look at how this lays out in a diagrammatic form. Ignition MES modules are built upon a rock-solid Ignition platform. So you see it in this graphic here. You have the application layer, and then you've got the Ignition platform that allows you to support the application layer and, of course, go up to the core module layer of Ignition. And then on top of that, it's really the MES modules work seamlessly with each other to form a collaborative suite of applications. So the current Ignition MES solutions are the Downtime OEE module, which can help you reduce downtime and increase efficiency. We'll be covering more on that today, obviously. The SPC module, which is great for tracking and improving quality. The scheduling module that is used to effectively manage your scheduling. And the instrument interface module makes it easy to connect to a variety of devices. I know Tom's going to talk more about it today, but there are additional MES modules that are on their way, and we'll be coming to you as we unfold throughout 2013. I already introduced myself, but let me take a moment to introduce Tom Eckman. He's with Inductive Automation as our MES product manager. He's today's presenter. Tom has many years of MES and other production tracking experience. He's done it. He's basically done it all. He's sold, demonstrated, and implemented numerous MES solutions, and he's responsible for the development of the Ignition MES modules, and has been for about 2 years since we started out. He continues to lead our efforts today. I'm pleased to have him today because I don't think we can have a more appropriate person for this topic today. With that, Tom, turn it over to you.
Thanks, Tom. So as Tom mentioned there, we're going to cover the OEE today, and we're going to take a look at what's required to sell it and implement it. So we're first going to start off with we need to know OEE. So if we're going into a facility, we need to know the terms, we need to know the concepts behind it, and some of those details. And then we're going to go into selling. We're going to take a look at what's the best way to sell it, some of the challenges we run into when we do sell it. We're going to take a look at estimating, kind of walk through the steps a little bit of what is required to estimate an OEE system, so that, one, you're not overpriced, but two, you're not cutting yourself short. And then we're going to talk about some tips on implementing OEE, and then we'll finish up with the question and the answer section. So starting out, OEE, customers, utilize OEE. Not all customers utilize it. Some modify it. And so it's good to know the basic core of OEE, and then when they ask for modifications, you can address that. So basically, OEE is multiple efficiency indicators, or we call them factors. And some benefits of OEE is that you could be dealing with cases, gallons, pounds. It really doesn't matter. You plant one maybe uses one method of tracking efficiency, and plant B uses another method. That's a problem. So it's a unified method across multiple industries, multiple production facilities, so that you're all talking the same language, and numbers are meaningful when you're comparing them to one another. So if we take a look at the three different efficiency factors or indicators, we have OEE availability, and this one basically accounts for our downtime. So we, not producing product at a given time, and it kind of monitors that. I've seen some installations out there that before OEE even was talked about, this is how they kind of measured efficiency. But there's some other indicators here that are kind of important. The second one is performance. So if you're expecting to run at a certain production rate and you're not, for whatever reason, even though you're not truly down, that's a loss of efficiency. You can't make that up usually. And then the third one's quality. So if you have a certain portion of your material that is subpar, you're not being as efficient as you can be. And quality is kind of a double-edged sword, because you either have to rework the product, the off-quality product, or you are throwing it away. Either way, it's affecting your bottom line. So we'll talk about downtime. Since OEE really tracks our efficiency, it doesn't really focus in. We can see that maybe we're not performing at the case rate or rate that we should be, or we have a quality problem. But on the availability end, which is usually the biggest, why is our availability low, and how can we improve it? And this is where downtime comes in. So if we can track the downtime reasons, no matter what they are, it could be that the machine is broken. It could be that raw materials weren't delivered to the line and the line had to wait for those raw materials to get delivered to the line. Either one of those is causing downtime, and we want to know why so that we can go in there and start taking action to correct those. There's two types of downtime. So we have planned downtime, which is like lunch breaks, holidays, safety meetings, those kinds of things. And those are times when you're not expected to produce product. So we don't factor those into our availability calculation. But then we have unplanned downtime, and these are unexpected. We were expecting to produce product during the time, and whatever the reason was, we didn't. And we can't just create more time in the day to make up for that very easily. Or if we do, it's extra cost and affects our bottom line. So when we take a look at all of this put together, we have planned downtime on the left there. And that's not counted in OEE, as I talked about. Then we have unplanned, and that is calculated in OEE. So we have our planned production time backs out that planned downtime. Then we, based on our unplanned downtime, we determine our availability, and that gives us a percentage figure. And then we take a look at our speed while we were running. While we were not down and we were actually running, we take a look at our speed of producing product. And that determines our performance. So if we were supposed to turn out 120 containers per minute and we only turned out 100, then our performance is going to be down lower. And then we take a look at quality. So if 10% of a product is getting rejected at our inspection station, then that's going to lower our quality indicator on our OEE. And we take all three of those, availability times our performance times our quality, and we get our overall efficiency. And it's also worth noting, too, in some situations it's not very practical to implement all of these. Or don't implement them all at first. Maybe quality is kind of a bigger challenge to determine the losses there. You can still implement it with availability and performance and then come in with the quality later on. Or some industries, depending on, for example, logging industry, it might be a little difficult to determine your performance and even your quality. So your availability is, maybe you're just using availability. But it really can be applied to all types of industries. We've even applied it to the recycling industry where you don't have widgets coming down the line. So we have some resources for you to learn more about OEE. So if you go to our website, there's a white paper on how to reduce downtime and raise OEE. And it really goes into a lot of details. And we have other resources on our website as well for learning OEE. Now we're going to talk about selling OEE and take a look at some of the key points that come into selling. Every time you go out and sell, you're going to run into something a little bit new, and you have to adjust. But these are the key points. Even though OEE can really be applied to any business, you could apply it to a billing center that sends out bills in the mail. But that's not really what we're after here. We're after a manufacturing company. Could be liquid manufacturing, individual discrete items. It could be recycling, like I mentioned. Many, many different industries. Even availability can be applied to water districts and things like that. The other thing is we want to look for management's commitment. This is very important because without it, they may not get the support for training. And training is kind of important if the system's going to be, that all operators and users utilize the system in the same way. You also are probably going to find there's some opposition. Some people don't want to be tracked on how efficient they are. And it really, it's important for somebody at a higher level, top down, saying, no, this is what we're doing, get used to it, and let's move forward. So that's why it's important to look for management's commitment. And also it's kind of important that you don't sell this and you don't look for customers that say, I want a 20% improvement, guaranteed. There's no real way that you can do that. You can estimate improvement, but there's no way you can really guarantee the improvement in the savings. The reason for that is you don't know how people are going to utilize the system, how fast they'll adopt to using the system. I've been surprised both ways. I've seen the greatest pessimist of a system going in, ending up being the greatest asset in utilizing the system to its fullest extent. And I've seen it the other way. Very optimistic people end up not using it as much. But maintenance could use it, production can use it, management can use it, and how are each of those departments going to utilize it, and what's that going to add to your total savings? That's really something you cannot guarantee. What we're selling against. In today's market, there's ERP systems that have an MES layer to them. Now, these are typically, ERP systems like SAP and others. They're kind of a batch operation. They're not a real-time live information. So if we, to the minute, want to know our OEE, what our downtime is, whether our line's having a problem that we need to address, whether it's a material supply issue, whatever it is, we're going to find out about it after the fact, and it's too late. You have homebrew systems. If you do it homebrew, there's a much, much longer runway. And you're going to go through a lot of learning curves, and you're going to stub your toe a lot, guaranteed. So using a pre-designed package for doing just specifically OEE kind of bypasses you around that. And Ignition really is the correct balance between a canned system that is very inflexible and a custom system, and being able to customize it to fit what the customer's needs are. You're also probably going to find that some customers are tracking just manually, and this is actually really, really common. They fill out sheets of paper, the operator does, not that accurate because they forget and they estimate the amount of time they were down and things like that. Then somebody has to enter that information in, usually into something like Excel, and you have a limited number of people that get the reports out of Excel. So you may get the results in a day or even weeks later, and that's again too late. You know, that's history. at that point. It will help with some of the things, but it's not going to help as much as it could if you had a software system. So speaking of that, what are some of the benefits of the OEE software? One, it's real time. So now you have quicker resolution of inefficiencies for some of your items. You know, if you have a long-term chronic problem on a machine, well, that's going to be a historical thing, and you're going to see that, and you're going to take care of that. But if you have something that's an operational issue that is happening today, or lack of communication, and the right people didn't get involved to resolve a problem, now they can be notified about it much, much easier, and the problem recognized much, much earlier, and get it resolved faster. So that just increases your efficiency. And then you're going to have to kind of guide your potential customer through the payback. You know, if you can increase your efficiency by 1%, what's going to be the increase in profits? And how does that compare to the cost of putting in the OEE system? And I think in most industries, you will find that there is a payback, and it is worth it. So we're going to take a look at some some key points to demonstrating the OEE software here. We're just going to briefly go in. So I'm not going to go through the whole demo because we just flat out don't have enough time. But I'll just hit some of the key points. This is our demo site, and I'm going to go into schedule management. This is kind of a really great screen to show people because it really demonstrates all the information that you can see. It's more than a schedule. We see all our resources on the left here, our production lines, and then we see all the production runs going across. So we see historical production runs in this lighter gray. We see current production runs in green. We see future production runs in blue. And we also see a little black bar down here. That's our current progress. And then the white represents our target. So if we're supposed to produce 2,800 cases and what we have produced, and we're so many % complete. Well, this light blue line down here is the current date and time. And we can see this black bar is matching that blue line. So we know that line C here is on target. But we also see here that line 1 is behind target because the black line is behind. So just at a glance, we can see what lines are running and how they're keeping up with their production requirements, just from one screen here. This same screen can be used for scheduling. So I can take scheduled items and move them between lines. And I can take a look at or schedule new items in here as well. And I can go back in time and look at different information. So if I wanted to see what happened with that run, I can go back and see what the downtime items were. We have other analysis tools and stuff, but this is just kind of a quick way that you can go in and see some very quick and easy performance indicators and information on how you are doing today, right now, real time. So this is live data. The demo goes into many other things, but I'm going to go back and show our sample company here. And I usually go into the dashboard here. This is another area that managers usually like seeing. So this is demonstrating collecting OEE information and downtime information across multiple production facilities. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But it's not just at a facility. You can use this at an enterprise level, out of the box, basically. Now we can take, we see where we have our quality here, performance, availability, and our overall. And you can take and break those up into different ways. So we have some areas here where we can break it up by site. We can break it up by area. We can break or get line details. and we can see our planned downtime and run downtime and run time and elapsed time and different things like that, which machines are causing the biggest problem. And OEE by itself is great for tracking our efficiencies while we're in production runs, but it's not really an asset utilization. So if we don't schedule a line to run, OEE doesn't reflect that, where TEEP does reflect that. And you can think of it as asset utilization. If we use that asset to its fullest extent out there on the line, that's the best thing that we could possibly do. But if we're only using it 50%, this will reflect that. And then also, this is kind of good because there's always users and companies that want to just free form start doing analysis and looking for correlations to affect efficiency. So this is usually a powerful thing to show in a demo. So here I'm taking a look at downtime by line. I can drill down and see which machine on that line was causing problems, and I can drill down into the filler and look at the reasons why the filler was down. Scale fault's the largest here. I can go in and see the operators and see which operator maybe is struggling with the scale fault. Maybe it's a training issue, maybe it's a cleaning issue. So you can really identify those kinds of things a little bit easier. We also support what we call additional factors, which are really just user-defined data points that you want to collect along with your OEE downtime information. And when you do that, they'll show up on this menu here. So we set up in this demo cardboard vendor. So if we wanted to start tracking our downtime by cardboard vendor, we can't. So maybe one cardboard vendor is a little bit cheaper, but they don't run as well through our system and causes more downtime. Or we can go back to that vendor and start working with them to correct that problem or not purchase from them. So it helps make those decisions where otherwise you're just kind of, you're guessing. It's hard to put your finger on it. So those are the two main things that I show. There's a lot more to show, but like I said, we don't have enough time to go into all the details. We do have a checklist, though, that we will be sending out to you after the webinar that hits the key points on demonstrating the OEE system. And it kind of runs you through, what type of person are you demonstrating to? Are they a management person? Are they more technical? And then some items that you can show or not show based on that. Okay, now the next section we're going to go into is estimating OEE. This is pretty accurate. Like I said, you don't want to raise the price so high because you lose out on the sale or the competition ends up winning out, but you don't want to cut yourself short. So it's an important step. Some of the things that we have to consider is what type of architecture are we dealing with? Are we dealing with a redundant system? Are we dealing with a standalone system? Or are we multi-site in an enterprise? Those are things that you have to narrow in on pretty quickly. And a lot of times it starts out with just a standalone system, and then it grows into an enterprise. And again, OEE module and Ignition is perfect for that. You do not have to repurchase new software or anything. You just add to it and expand. You also need to determine the number of cells that are needed. Cells are like machines. And really, you have to determine and kind of work with your customer to determine the granularity of OEE downtime tracking that you want. You can have a cell for an entire line, but then it's not going to help identify which machines causing the biggest problem. There's some other things in there that we have line downtime tracking algorithms to determine what machine caused the actual downtime, because you can have multiple machines go down, and that's very common. Multiple machines go down on a line. So we have some algorithms in there, and that can also affect the number of cells you need. You have to take a look at the hardware. So how many servers do Do you have existing ones? Do you need new ones? We recommend for the OEE system to use a separate database. You can run it all on one system, so if you have a small system, you can do that. But if you're going to be rolling this out, we recommend that. On the PLC side of things or other plant floor equipment, you have to look at whether you can communicate to those, if you have a network to those, whether you have to install equipment to get that communication there. Then within the PLCs or other equipment, you know, our production counter is already set up. Can you utilize those production counters? Line and machine states. Is the machine currently running? Is it down? Can you tell automatically why the machine's down? Those are all things you have to figure out. Now, we have some systems out there that are completely manual. We have some that we're only picking up the lines running or down. We have others where we're picking up every downtime reason you can possibly automatically detect. So you have to work through that and determine how many changes are needed in the PLC. Other key questions you need to ask customers are work orders going to be used? Not all customers use work orders, and if you are going to use them, where are they coming from? Are they coming from an ERP system? And if they come from an ERP system, you can tie into that through either an intermediary database table or web services, or even importing a flat file, different methods that we can import that information in. So you have to determine that. Product codes, will they be used? We require product codes in our system. You need at least one, but if you're always running the same product and it's always running the same rate, then that could be hidden from the users if they don't really need to you know, select a product code when they're going to start a run. But we have other customers that, you know, they have 30,000 different product codes. Our schedule is going to be used. Our system, it can be so simple that you just select, you know, start run, or select a product and start run, or schedule it and it follows the schedule, or select the schedule entry and start and stop. It's really flexible in that area. So you have to narrow in on how they are going to, you know, if they're going to use schedules and how the production runs are going to start and stop. It might be that there's another system that is, you know, starting and stopping the production runs and we're just following it. So you need to zero in on those details. And will the operator input data into the system? So if you're collecting downtime reasons automatically, or you have a completely manual system, is the operator going to have an operator terminal out there where they select additional downtime information in the system? So maybe automatically we detected the operator press the stop button, but why did they press the stop button? And give further details or enter in notes. We have to take a look at estimating, you know, or coming up with the differences from our standard project that comes with the OEE Downtime Module, so you can estimate the customization that's required. So you can start with the preloaded screens. You can show those to the customers. You can discuss what they want changed. And then you can much easier manner estimate the number of hours to make those changes. Same thing goes with reports. So what reports do they want that are different and unique? And then you can estimate the hours for those. And I thought I would show just a little bit about building a custom screen here so that you get a feel for what it takes to do that. There's some systems out there of our competitors that require Visual Studio, and it's very tedious, very time-consuming to go in there and make a lot of changes. There's other competitors that have different systems you have to go to. You have to go to one package to configure the user screens. You have to go to another one to configure reports. You have to go to a third one to configure your production model and downtime. This is all within Ignition, so it really makes it a lot easier. So we'll go to the Ignition Designer, and this is where everything is configured. All the screens are configured. We have our production model up here where you get to set your production sites, your production areas, production lines, machines under a line. We even have other things that like being able to group your production cells and all that. We also have the windows down here. So I'm going to go to a window I have in here called My Analysis 2. It's just a blank window here. And we have a lot of components that come here. So Ignition by itself has a lot of components, but then we also have components that come with the OEE downtime system. So we saw the analysis screens, kind of the dashboard overview. We'll build a new one. Maybe the customer wants something new here. So I'm going to go in and drop this component down here. And this component is going to go out and gather our analysis data, and based on what I type in here. So I need to tell it to get the data for a given date range here. So I'm going to go in and just tell it to get the last couple days. So I'm going to do some date arithmetic here. I'm going to get the current time. I'm going to back up a day. And it's going to get that date and put it in here. So we can see that it's the 26th, and today's the 27th. Then I'm going to go and do the exact same thing on here, but I'm going to go forward a little bit of time. And instead of using the current date, I'm going to go over and get that start date that I did. And then I'm going to move forward a couple days. So now we see the 26th to the 28th. And those will just update. And so if the user has this screen up, those will just update, and the information will just update. I'm also going to rename this. Let's call it AC OEE. And I'm going to tell it that I want to put the data in a chart. I'm going to pull out some run information. I'm going to compare by line, and I'm going to take a look at OEE. Okay, so that will go out and get the data. Now I want to display it. I can display it in a chart or different ways. I'm going to display it in the production chart here, which is a bar chart. And I'm going to have multiple ones on the screen, so I'm just going to show the one right now. And I'm going to tell it to go to that controller, the AC OEE, to get its data. So there we see OEE by line. So it was that quickly to get it out. Now I probably want to take out energy here and call it percent or OEE. So pretty quickly we've got a screen design there. Now I'm going to do that again. So I'm going to put multiple things on here. Only the start and stop date, I'm just going to tell it to go over here and get them because I already calculated those. So go to another property, get the start date, get the end date. Okay, you're noticing how much code I'm not typing in here to be able to get this information. And I'm going to call this analysis controller downtime. And we're going to pull out downtime information. And we'll compare by line again. And we could compare by area, all kinds of things. Downtime minutes. Okay, need to automatically update that. And I'll put it in a bar chart again. And I'll tell this bar chart to get the data from this controller here. So data, see downtime chart data. I think what I did is I need to tell this to use chart. There we go. There we go. So now we see the downtime by line, lined up with the OEE by line up above. If I wanted to add in something more to that, I can. Occurrences, and now we see the number of occurrences alongside the downtime minutes, and probably want to get rid of this label on the left, and we can do things like that. So really you can create, you can get very imaginative and give the users exactly what they want. Now I'm going to save that project, and I'm also going to publish that project out. So if I go back over to the client, I have a link down here on Show My Analysis. There's our screen. So that gives you an idea how much effort's required to build some custom analysis screens. And really we have components to help in every aspect of the OEE implementation, whether it's selecting downtime reasons or starting and stopping runs and all that. We just have a lot of tools in there to make it as easy as possible. And we also have a checklist available to help you go through and estimating an OEE downtime system that we'll send you after the email. But it goes into all of your different considerations that you should take a look at. I'm going to talk a little bit about implementing OEE, because that's the last step. And you know, it's an important step that it gets implemented correctly and the customer really benefits. So some things to consider, and this can be applied to just about any project, but there's some items here that you should consider for OEE. Highly recommend that you define a project scope. It just kind of makes sure the customer and yourself are on the same page. There's no surprises further down the road. You know, define the schedule. Are you going to start it out in one area of the plant and then roll it out? Are you going to implement it all at once? Just get around that so you're in agreement with the customer also. Integration with other systems. You need to identify that. And who will you be integrating or interfacing with if you're tying into an ERP system? And like I said before, we have a couple different ways that can be done, either through an intermediary database table or web services or other, even other methods. But you know, get that clearly defined as you're implementing it. And then also the PLCs and what changes you need to do and how to roll that out. Then, you know, implementing the software. Go through and create the screens. So you already went through the step of here's the screens we're going to use out of the project that comes with the OEE Downtime Module. And then how are you going to modify your screens and navigation and those kinds of things. Then really testing is so important. Because if there are errors, the credibility goes down. It goes down with operators, it goes down with management, and you don't want that. You want this to be a stable source of information. And we've gone into systems where they actually continued the manual system along with the automatic system and verified the automatic system for a period of time. And I've seen just simple things like in the PLC a typo. Instead of resetting a counter at 32,768, they typed in 22,768. And that throws it off. So it verifies all those simple little typos that can even happen. And then training for users. You know, you just don't put it out there and assume the operator is going to understand how to use it. You should have training for them. and other users as well, so that it could be maximized. And then we have 50 videos, actually. I actually had 49, and I'm going, wow, it'd be neat if we had one more video, made an even 50. And then we forgot one topic that we followed up, and we have an even 50 videos for you. And we'll send out the link to our website on the page on our website that allows you to go through, and it covers everything from the basics of OEE all the way to building scheduling screens, analysis screens, configuring your production model, everything about it. So that, I think, will be a valuable resource to you. And then also we have Ignition MES Training. So look at our website on, I think, upcoming events or something like that, and we'll talk about the different classes that are coming up, and we have the MES Training. And the MES Training is going to include OEE and go into SBC and some of our other modules as well. So we have recipe module that will be coming out next, and then we'll be following up with traceability genealogy. All right, back to you, Don.
Tom, thanks. Appreciate it. As we go into the Q&A section, I'll just remind people. I did send out a little note though in the chat to quite a few people in the queue on questions. Tom will get to as many as we possibly can, but I'll also say that we will respond to your questions. If we don't get to all of them now, we'll respond to your questions afterwards also. Additionally, because there are a couple of questions overall in this area, I do want to say, Tom mentioned that it's a little bit, it's only so much time that we have today. Based on the feedback we had even after doing the white paper, there was a desire to say, let's go into some of the basics and let's go into the demo. But I will tell you that I know we weren't deep enough for some of you, so please take advantage of scheduling a demo where we can go into exactly your questions and have the demo scheduled where Tom or one of our team here will go into it in depth for you. So just a quick review. Obviously, the whole point here is winning with Ignition OEE Downtime. A couple of takeaways. It's, one, have a solid grasp of the essentials of OEE. If you don't already, be sure and get it. Two, you need to be able to explain clearly the advantages of using OEE for your customers. Three, you should be able to properly estimate the cost of integrating an OEE downtime system. And four, you need good training in how to implement it successfully. So if you want more information, he mentioned several resources throughout the time. InductiveAutomation.com is a good place to go, and you'll be able to get to pretty much every resource that we have available right now. Also, if you do want an individual demo, as I mentioned, several people did. Jim Meisler, Vanessa Garcia, Myron Hertling, Shane Miller, Raman Mafaga, Vivian Mudge are all account executives who are willing to schedule it. They bring in Tom to work with them on the demos as needed. So get as much detail as you want so you're very comfortable with it. So you know that when you're out presenting it for the integrators here, you're comfortable presenting it. We'll help you with that. And then also for end users here, if you just want a demo for what it means to your organization, then we can do that. Melanie Moniz is account services. So if you don't have an account executive you're working with, you can always call Melanie, and she will make sure you get scheduled. With that, Tom, just one thing. Could you just, you mentioned TEEP in the process. Could you just do a quick definition of TEEP, which you mentioned earlier in conjunction with the overall efficiency of an asset?
Yeah. So TEEP stands for Total Equipment Effective Performance. And what it is if you have an asset, let's say a packaging line, and over 10 days you scheduled it 5 days, we're assuming 24/7 here, then that's 50% loading. So 50% of the time we're utilizing it, the other 50% of the time we are not utilizing that asset. Then we take, while we were utilizing it, we take what the OEE was during that time and we factor that into it, and we come up with our TEEP figure. So if we had perfect OEE and we ran all 10 days over this 10-day period, we would have 100% TEEP because we're utilizing that asset to the fullest extent.
Okay, cool. Thanks. So now getting some of the questions, just from Kim Stewart, how do you get the customer to establish a baseline OEE prior to a line upgrade?
That's a really good question because it's kind of a cart before the horse type situation. What I recommend doing, if they're not using a manual system and they don't have OEE at all, what I recommend doing is, put in a system and track the OEE as soon as possible in the first week. Just record what your OEE values are and such. And OEE is a process. It's not you put the software in and magically your efficiencies go up. It is a tool. So you put the software in and it starts tracking, which normally is very hard to track what your efficiencies are. And then it's also identifying the things you need to focus on to fix it. And then you fix those and then you see the OEE go up. If you don't close the loop and take action to fix those items affecting your efficiency will not go up. So that gives you an opportunity to see a starting point and then over time see it increase.
Great, thanks, Tom. So here's one from Tim. How are we gathering this information on downtime? Is it completely automatically by being wired in directly to individual I/O points, or machines or processes?
Both. We can tie into machines and detect automatically the state of the machine, and we're just reading a numeric value out of a PLC. So 0, the machine is either turned off or idle. 1 is it's running. 2 is down for a fault, or however you define those. You can define them. And so that's one method of doing it. The other method is if you don't, let's say it's a workstation that has a pneumatic tool. There's no automation, there's no controller. Then we can do a manual system where you give a screen to the operator and they can select, I'm at break, I'm down because of mechanical or electrical, what have you. So it can be completely manual, completely automatic, and everything in between.
Good, thanks, Tom. We got a couple of questions from Martin Kilman. One was submitted prior and one during the webinar, so I'll take the during the webinar one first. So Martin asked, how easy is it to add additional data tables to the product's database schema?
Oh, that's a really good question. I'm glad you asked that. By default, the OEE downtime system creates the tables that are needed for the OEE downtime system. All the MES modules do that, so you don't have to worry about those schemas. But it's your database. And you get to select whether it's MySQL, SQL Server, Oracle, and you can go in there and create more tables to that database. You can even connect to different databases, different types of databases. So your hands are not tied as far as creating additional tables and databases. The other thing is that you can actually modify our tables. You can add additional columns in there. The only restriction is that we need to be able to insert a record in there, so you have to accept null values.
Great, and this may be a build on Martin's question in advance was OEE is one metric. How does Ignition help in coordinating operational improvement programs?
Yeah, that's another good question. Like I said, OEE software alone doesn't improve your efficiencies. You need to start implementing a program. Ignition has the tools built in there to do it. The OEE Downtime Module doesn't have it specifically. So, for example, maybe you're assigning responsibility to people to correct a downtime reason that keeps occurring. Maybe it's maintenance. It doesn't step you through, by default, doesn't step you through assigning that responsibility to the person and following up that it gets done and putting it on schedules and such. But Ignition has all the tools to put that in there. In fact, internally in inductive automation, we use Ignition. We use our own software for our customer relationship management system. That's how powerful it is to doing calendars and schedules and assigning responsibilities and keeping track of history of all that and such.
Thanks, Tom. This one gets into the selling section of your presentation from Paul Anderson. He says, who are your main competitors and in what manner do we win? I think this may actually branch into a little bit of even the power of Ignition and some of the selling points. I just mentioned them in passing at the front of our of the way we license and the way we unleash innovation. But I think it'd be good, even from an MES perspective, to say who do we compete against, and what are the things that make us win.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of integrators are interested in selling this stuff, so help them out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we have all types of things that we compete against. It's really kind of amazing. We've come up with competing against SAP, because they have some solutions. I would say they're probably easy to compete against, other than just the loyalists that really believe in SAP for everything. And it's not the right tool for everything. It does some things very, very well. But OEE, MES type tasks, it's not real time. Connecting to the plant floor is a barcode scanner. It's not really giving the tools that are really needed and wanted in this industry. Then we have your typical competition, which, I'm not going to name names, but they have SCADA packages and HMI packages and MES offerings. And, we're quite innovative in this area compared to them. They are very much locked into Microsoft and very much a heavy install, I call it, instead of light install. Their licensing models are not favorable. If you want to add OEE or reporting to one more desktop, that's another $1,000 or $2,000, where it's free with Ignition. And, not having to have a DVD to go around to machines to install it, and all those issues. We could go on and on about those issues. So those we're finding fair amount of success. Most of our systems, we do win out in those bids going head-to-head with those.
I think one of the things, Tom, is when you add all that together and you add it up, when you start pricing something out, and even Tom, when he's doing the demo, very quickly says, hey, please notice all the scripting I'm not doing here. So I think that's a big point. So when you're talking about taking the CD around or having to do things on every single client, when you start pricing this out, I think you're going to find as an integrator that you're able to have a lot of innovation time, because the cost of the software is going to leverage so well. So you have an order of magnitude cheaper on software. That gives you a lot of flexibility to serve your customer with all sorts of customized needs.
Yeah. And I think the last kind of competition we have, there's some people that do homebrew, only that's becoming less and less. They're finding out that it sounds like a great idea up front, and then they're finding out, wow, there's a lot of stuff that we didn't plan on. Do we want to have this implemented 2 years down the road, or do we want it next month, type of things, and ongoing support, people go on vacation and all that. The last one is there's companies that do just MES. That's all they do. And they don't really have the HMI tools or the SCADA tools, and this, we could put OEE downtime along with start-stop controls on the same screen. We can have historical data on the same screen. We can have quality data on the same screen. So we can take information from all kinds of sources and put them on a screen using a single designer to configure it and using a single client for the users.
That's great. Thanks, Tom. We scheduled a little bit longer on this because we had a feeling we were going to get what we're getting, which is a whole slew of questions. So we're going to take a few more minutes to answer a few more of these. Sticking on the SAP theme, though, David Young asks, what types of integration is possible with SAP plant maintenance and or production orders? Yeah.
That's very common to get production orders or work orders from an ERP system, such as SAP. And basically, there's a couple ways you can interface to it. Probably the preferred way is with web services. So we have utilities in there to tie into web services, so you can pull that information out. And you can also push information up through those web services, and it goes through the business logic of the ERP system. So that's why I recommend that as the recommended way. But we also have other clients where we could theoretically attach directly to their database. That's usually not something they encourage. So they'll put an intermediary database table where they write to a table, let's say the work orders, and then we monitor that table and do an update or insert based on the information in that intermediary table. So, and there's, I think there's even some people that export and import, and you can automate that into CSV files, and we can support all those interfaces.
There's a lot of questions. I know I'm not going to do all of them, but here's another one here from Hugh Fan, who says, how can OEE be customized to a continuous process manufacturing? Yeah. I know you mentioned continuous and discrete were both possible. So
yeah, the continuous process. So discrete just being containers going down a line, or you're moving product from this station to that station, and those kinds of things. But continuous process might be a liquid processing, for example, where you have your main ingredient goes in, and then you have your sub-ingredients that go in. And if one of those ingredients shuts down, it doesn't matter which one, you're going to have your mixture is going to be wrong, and you have to shut the whole system down. So in that situation, we have a downtime algorithm, detection algorithm, which is first down piece of equipment that went down, and then we'll lock in on that as caused the downtime. From there, you're dealing in whatever units, whether it's liters, gallons, those kind of things. You can have waste, where you have a divert valve that's going off to waste if you're off-spec product, and we can measure the gallons during that time. All those kinds of things can be done.
Great. A couple other questions here is, and I'm going to say to some of you who have some very detailed questions, we are going to follow up and make sure we get to all of them afterwards, if we don't get to them all now. But this is from Sartor Prepared, which is, what about customers who don't even know what OEE is, and maybe they need it? And someone else mentions, Enrique says, what are the major obstacles, objections presented by customers when selling Ignition OEE? So this is sort of like educate the customer, let them know they need it, and then sell it. Can you give sort of a brief answer to that, even though I know it could be a fairly long answer?
Yeah. Well, you know, every place could benefit from OEE, and if there's a place that wouldn't benefit from OEE, they should be like a model for the rest of the businesses. I'm not sure there's many of those exist, if any. Anybody that has downtime, you know, anybody that has workflow procedure problems, anybody that, you know, production rate problems, quality problems, and I think I just named probably all businesses fit into those categories or have those issues. So you kind of have to step them through that. You probably have to step them through the payback. Now, there's the cost of the project going in. You as an integrator would give them a price to put in OEE. But there's also a cost that is not directly a dollar amount. There's a cost in changing the procedures within the organization. There's probably a training cost because you have to take people off their job to train them on this. So there's a commitment, and you have to work through with that customer all of those steps and show them that, hey, this really makes sense. And if you don't, your competition may catch up with you, you know. And do you want to improve the bottom line of your company? You know, so those are kind of the questions that.
Okay. Here's I'm going to ask we just get one or two more questions, and we're going to wrap up here. But this one, just a question on: can you connect this OEE with the Honeywell system, PI system, or others?
I would say probably. I'm unfamiliar with those systems specifically and how you interface into those. We support all the standard industry interfaces. So we have OPC and OPC UA and DA. So if we don't have a communication to a device, you can use you know, either a Kepware or somebody like that, OPC server, and Honeywell might have their own, and interface with it. We also have a wide variety of databases that we can connect up to, including ODBC. We have instrument interface type devices, so if you're reading in from gauge ports and things like that, we can interface with that. We have web services. So we support a wide variety, and it really becomes an issue of what do they support. If they're totally proprietary and don't want anybody to talk to them, then, you know, that's kind of an issue. Most companies are not like that, and I don't think Honeywell is.
Great. Thanks, Tom. Cam, also, I know you had a couple other questions here that we're not getting to, but as I said, we'll follow up, Cam, and make sure we get your questions answered fully, because very good questions. But we're kind of running towards the end of our time. So I think what I'd like to do, Tom, is give you an opportunity with sort of an open-ended final question, because you talked a little bit about the evolution of OEE, certainly from the viewpoint of the Ignition MES modules. When you look overall at the MES landscape, how do you see the existing MES landscape, and where do you see it headed? So if you sort of wrap up today's session with a little bit of your look at now and look at the future.
Okay. Well, right now I see kind of a kludge, for lack of a better word. I see companies using quality. They're using one system, or they're using a manual system. I see a lot of companies either doing OEE manually or not at all, or kind of a very abbreviated one that doesn't give the full picture. I see, traceability is pretty poor in a lot of places. And it's kind of, that's just the current state that I kind of see out there most of the time. So, and I see the products out there not being a very good solution. One, they're either extremely expensive and require a lot to implement. Two, they're in diverse systems, so they really don't pull the picture together and make it easy to use. And I think the direction we'd like to see it head, and this is kind of our focus on what products we come out with and how they work together, is we see a unified system where you can get to, let's say you put in a lot number, and now you can see all the quality, the OEE, the recipes used, any of the settings in the recipe, any deviations there, historian data, and other data that now you can just pull up in a single client and configure it in a single designer. We don't see why, the technology is there to be able to do that, and we don't see why that's not out there today, and that's where we're headed. And so our MES modules work together. Why tell it what product I'm running on a line when I enter in the sample data for quality when I already told it what I'm running based on the schedule or OEE or something like that. So you can really capitalize by having it all in an integrated system.
Great, thanks, Tom, and really thanks for taking the time today. And really, I would say to our audience, both the integrators and the end users, that the webinar we did earlier this month on the future of integration, this one on looking at OEE downtime, and future webinars that we will do in the whole MES world, we're really trying to make good on our commitment to you as integrators to do what we can to help you be successful in your business. I mean, that's a strong commitment here at Inductive Automation. I want to emphasize it and really encourage you, take advantage of calling the names on the screen if you're already working with the account executive. If you're not, call Melanie, and she will make sure she gets you in touch with somebody. But we do have a strong commitment to your success, and we don't want it to just be lip service. We want to basically hear from you. We want to respond to you. We want to give you the tools that you need. As throughout the presentation today, Tom went to several times to resources that are on the website. We'll continue to build out those resources. And frankly, future webinars and their topics are really catering as much as our development timeline on our software to feedback from you. So integrator success is really important to us, and take advantage of it and give us your feedback. So with that, we've sort of come to the conclusion of today's webinar. Thanks so much for your attention. Really appreciate it. Have a great day.